I stepped here, and all of a sudden there was like a light, like something like a light above me. I was, and I was like on my phone, and I looked up, and I saw a orb like about like this big.
Oh my god!
And it just kind of like dipped like 2 or 3 times and just went up and over the wall, and
into the cemetery. Oh my god! Hey, all you Holly weirdos. Let's take a haunted history tour of Paramount Studios. Now, while I was on Christmas break, I had the opportunity to take a private tour with my friend, TikToker Javier of Californiography. If you're not following him on TikTok, then you're missing out on some pretty delicious California history, specifically Los Angeles history. Now, Javier invited me to come over to do a little haunted history tour on the Paramount lot and to take a quick little tour of Paramount's archives, which is filled with costumes, props, and even screen tests. And I had the opportunity to watch a very rare and very beautiful screen test of a very popular pop star back in the day. So let's sit down, jump onto the Paramount golf cart. Let's touch the iron gate on the original entrance of Paramount for good luck, because that is tradition. And let's hear the stories of the Paramount lot's ghosts. What is truly haunting stages 29 through 32? Is it true that Heather O'Rourke haunts one of the stages? Could it be the ghost of Lucille Ball, who is haunting the lofts next to Studio 25? And what area is considered to be the most haunted area in Paramount Pictures? You gotta tune in to find out, because it gets really creepy, it gets really weird, and Javier shares many of his personal experiences as well as the experiences of his co-workers around Paramount Pictures. So you know what to do, right? You're gonna sprinkle a little circle of salt as you listen to this episode and clutch really tightly to your cellulite, because we are going to get Holly Weird with Paramount archivist and TikToker of Californiography, Javier. Let's get Holly Weird and haunted at Paramount Pictures. When you think of Los Angeles, you think of show business, the movies, Hollywood Walk of Fame and the Hollywood sign, and all of the picture and production houses from Universal to Warner Brothers, including Paramount Pictures. You always wonder about the famous stars that walk through the gates, where they started. Where were they in the middle of their career? When you also think of Los Angeles, you think of its rich history. Bryce and I have mentioned this many times in our episodes. There are layers upon layers and layers of history here. Each one of them can tell you so many stories. Each one of them have their own set of ghosts. Just like Paramount Pictures, you can peel back so many layers within that place. If you just step through the iron gate and maybe press your ear against one of the walls of those buildings, they could tell you a plethora of stories. They could tell you so much gossip, so much tradition and superstitions. But they too also have a set of ghost stories. And I was certainly going to be able to hear many of these stories. So as I was about to embark into my winter break, I had the opportunity to visit and take a private tour at Paramount Pictures with my friend Javier, who actually used to work as the security guard at Paramount Pictures before transitioning into the Paramount Archives department. Now, in past episodes, we've always mentioned that the best people to collect a lot of haunted or unexplainable accounts from certain locations are usually the custodians and security guards. And given that Javier did work a good chunk of time at Paramount Pictures as a security guard doing those morning watches, he had quite a bit of experiences that he couldn't explain that he will share with us later in this episode. But you know how we do. We always like to touch on the history of a location before going into the ghost stories. So in order to begin, we need to go all the way back. And according to the laconservancy.org website, under Paramount Pictures history, Paramount was founded in 1913, and it traces its formation to Adolf Zuckar's Famous Players Film Company. Zuckar's Famous Players merged with the Jesse L. Latsky Company in 1916, creating the Famous Players Latsky Corporation. The studio made its home near Sunset and Vine. By the 1920s, Famous Players Latsky was one of the most prominent studios in Hollywood. In 1926, the company purchased its present lot, formerly home to the United Studios, and embarked on an ambitious building program. The studio's name changed to Paramount in 1930 and continued to expand its film productions and theater network. It also invested heavily on radio, music, and later television. In 1967, Paramount Pictures purchased the neighboring RKO Studios lot from Desilu Productions. We'll get into that one soon. Speaking of the 60s, Paramount Pictures became a key element in the restructuring of Gulf Western from a diverse conglomerate into one focusing on media and communications. A transformation reflected when Gulf Western changed its name to Paramount Communications Inc. in 1989. Now let's touch on some of the big films that came out of Paramount Pictures. We had 1960's Psycho, 1961's Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1970's A Love Story, and who could forget 1972's The Godfather. The list goes on, especially earlier pictures such as The Ten Commandments, Sunset Boulevard, and of course, Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. But it wasn't just pictures, they also produced amazing shows there. Memorable shows such as I Love Lucy and of course The Brady Bunch, Happy Days, Cheers, and Frasier. A majority of these are actually shot in Lucky Studio 25, which is actually conveniently located next to a set of lofts that were occupied by Katharine Hepburn and Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. Now keep in mind earlier that I mentioned that Paramount lot was actually Desilu Gower Studios from 1957 to 1967, and I Love Lucy was filmed on Stage 25 from 1962 to 1968. I mean, we could go on and on with more historical facts connected to Paramount Pictures, but there is one that I have to bring up before we hit our interview with Javier and take our tour. It's the history of the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and it's a strange history. I mean, that's another rabbit hole that we're going to go down later on in our episodes. But the thing is, Paramount Studios shares a wall with Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And for those that are not too familiar with Hollywood Cemetery, let's just say that this cemetery holds 80,000 grave sites, including more dead Hollywood icons than anywhere in the world. Burial sites include Jane Mansfield, Peter Lorre, Mickey Rooney, Douglas Fairbanks, Cecile DeMille, and of course Bugsy Siegel and rocker Johnny Ramone. Honestly, the list goes on and on and on. Now, according to an article on splicetoday.com, the history of the Hollywood Forever Cemetery is definitely strange and fraught with tons of scandals. I'm telling you, we're going to have to make another episode on this. But real quickly, it was founded in 1899 on 100 acres and originally called Hollywood Cemetery. Now, here's where Paramount gets involved. RKO Studios purchased 40 acres, and this became the Paramount Studios lot. Part of the remaining land was put aside for Beth Olam Cemetery, the only Jewish burial ground in Hollywood. In 1939, convicted felon Jules Roth purchased a 51% stake in the property, and for the next 6 decades, Roth used cemetery funds to pay for personal luxuries while the grounds fell into disrepair. There were other things, too, that Roth was very shady about and low-key racist for doing, such as forbidding minorities from being buried within the cemetery. This included actress Hattie McDaniel, Gone with the Wind, who expressed a desire to be buried among her peers. In the 1950s, Roth even purchased a boat he claimed he needed to scatter clients' ashes. Instead, the yacht was used for parties and liaisons with women. As headstones and crypts began crumbling, questions arose about the use of cemetery funds. A disgruntled employee alerted the IRS, and Roth was forced to sell the land to settle the tax debt. I mean, I'm telling you, the city is filled with layers and layers and layers, filled with stories, along with fraud and tax debt. All right. So let's hop on the Paramount Pictures golf cart with my friend Javier. The date is December 19th, 2022, and the time is 2 p.m. And I'm ready to take this haunted history tour with my friend. And he goes over some pretty interesting history about the Paramount lot. And part of that lot was actually an active boulevard called Marathon Boulevard. That was a street that had shops and apartments and even a bank. And you see kind of remnants of it around Paramount Pictures. If you ever decide to take a tour, they'll definitely go over this with you. It's really astonishing. And there's this building that he took me by that I didn't record in time, but he was talking to me about the Mary Pickford building. And through the entrance, this glass entrance, you can actually see a bank vault, which is really, really cool. And of course, next door to the Mary Pickford, he'll talk about it very soon, is the Rudolph Valentino building. It's a Dutch-style building that actually was a set of apartments when it was a part of this public boulevard. And this former residence has a residence ghost of its own. So we'll get into that very soon. So sit back, relax, hold on to the rails of the golf cart as we take this tour with my friend Javier.
That's the copy room.
So this used to be the bank back when it first opened.
Yeah, it was back. So I'll show you when we get over to the admin building.
Okay.
But basically, that little brick thing where we were on,
yeah,
it was called Marathon Avenue. So it was actually a street that ran through here, because where you just came in isn't the original entrance. The original entrance is over here. Over there, you can see where the palm trees are.
Yeah.
That's the original entrance, but it's a block up. So we'll pass through the original gates. So all of this used to be a street where people drove on, and this was actually an apartment complex. So this is where all
this Tudor style building used to be apartments.
Used to be apartment complex. And in here, I had friends that worked in this building, and they had a ghost. One of my friends, they called the ghost the Angry Man. That's what they called it. They said every time she would work here late, they would hear like doors slamming, or just things like a really overbearing feeling of like dread. And sometimes she would be in there and she would walk into the copy room and everything was fine. She would walk out, come back a few minutes later, and all the papers would be strewn about, so they were always kind of like, it was just whatever presence or whatever thing they feel in there is like, they just called it the Angry Man. I guess he doesn't like, whatever, people being around their paperwork. I don't know. But that was a story that she had. I like to say I'm a skeptical believer. So I believe that there's got to be something, because we're all energy, right? That energy have to. So I've had experiences here, and the only ones that I tell people about are the ones that I can't explain. So I came into this building while I was working graveyard. I came into this building. I went into one of the conference rooms to do my report, and this building only has 3 entrances to it. There's one here on the south side. There's one in the front that's a key card access, and then there's one down in the basement that is also like, you have a key for it. So when we're here at night, we lock everything up, So I walked in there through the door into the conference room, and I was writing my report, and I hear somebody run down the hallway above me and slam a door. And immediately I thought it's going to be one of these guys playing a prank on me, it's, they're bored, it's 3 a.m, whatever. So I get up, I run upstairs, I go up and down the hallway, and there's nothing there. I go 1 story up, back and forth there, nothing. So it's got to be one of these guys. So I go to one of the gates where we have the computers where we can see where people scan in and out, because I was by this door. There's no way that somebody came in and I didn't hear them. So they must have come in through the front door. And I checked in there, nobody scanned in and out. There's people on the radio, they were calling, where they were at, and they were like in other corners of the lot. So the people that I could account for that would have been the ones responsible for that were elsewhere. So it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't see anything. I heard it, but it was one of those things where I can't explain it.
You can't explain
it,
yeah.
It's one of those things where I just chalk it up to maybe it was the angry man.
That is smart that you did that. That you went to go see the login of the scans. When did Paramount open again? It was in the early 1900s, right?
That's the problem. I'm so bad with dates.
Okay.
But so the studio, I think it's been here since like 19. I want to say, yeah, it's definitely the early 1900s. Like 1920 something is when they moved to here, because prior to being here, when it was like. It was like Jesse Lasky Players. Mm-hmm. The studio was like in a barn, like in Hollywood, like over there off of like the barn's still there. It's the Hollywood Museum that's right by the Universal Amphitheater.
Yeah,
that's the barn where the famous Lasky Players started. So that's basically like the origins of like the studio is like that famous Lasky Players. But then they moved to this property. Like I said, I don't remember when. I'm very bad with dates, but yeah, it's like in the 20s when they moved over here.
Ah, okay.
And then you see here, like you can see, it says 5454 Marathon.
Yeah,
that's what I was telling you about. This used to be a street.
So and that was the name of the street, or
it was Marathon.
It was
and
Marathon.
That was the address was 5454 Marathon.
Oh my gosh!
So it's still that. This is where all of our. You can see the Paramount Picture Corporation up there.
Yeah.
And this is where all of our executives, their offices are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like so people would just drive up and down the street, and then like when the extras wanted to get work, they were all lined up over here at the gate. So this is the
so this is the original gate. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Is when you pass through these gates, you gotta touch it for good luck.
So this is the tradition. You touch the original iron gate to Paramount. All right, for good luck. I need it. I need a lot of it today.
So every time we pass through here, we're always like, for good luck.
That's awesome. Oh, I love hearing about these other traditions.
And one of the cool things I always point out here is they have this memorial here is to all the Paramount employees that made the ultimate sacrifice in World War II. So it's like all a plaque that they installed there to in honor of all the Paramount employees who fought in World War II. So yeah, that's one of the things that a lot of people don't notice, but it's been there since it's been installed. It has been as far as I know, it's never been moved from there. But that was one of those things that's kind of a cool little history of like the studio, of its employees.
That we actually had employees that fought for the country.
This here is this thing here is the dressing room building. This is where they had like the dressing rooms for like the actors and actresses and things like that. Now it's all office space. And one day I was up on the 3rd floor. And I was sitting the same thing, it's like you're going through, you're doing your rounds, and then you got to write a report, so you find, I always found a conference room or somewhere that was, empty to sit down and write my report. And I was sitting there and I kept hearing people arguing, and it sounded like it was like a man or a woman that were arguing. And it was one of those things where I was like, is that a TV? Because, sometimes people are playing movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that sounds like somebody arguing. So I stood up. And it sounded like it was coming from above me, but I was on the highest floor. I was on the 3rd floor. There's no floor above me. So I kind of stopped and then listened, and I didn't hear it anymore. So, it was one of those things. I went out and kind of went up and down the hallway, kind of seeing if maybe,
you
whatever.
Assessed, yeah.
Again, it's one of those things where I didn't find anybody else there. I can't explain it. Can I really say it was ghosts? I don't know. It could have been somebody left the TV on. I don't know. But it was one of those things that kind of gave me pause. Like, hey, I know I heard somebody arguing above me. There's nobody above me. I I couldn't find anything to explain it. So it's one of those things where I just chalk it up to, I don't know. It might have been, maybe, who knows?
Might have been a television, or I mean, it could have been an energy or a residual where maybe it was an actress rehearsing a very intense scene with an actor, and that was absorbed. Maybe it's residual. It's like, that's what I always try to tell people. Like, we really don't know what we're dealing with at times.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like the theory of like that time exists. Everything exists at the same time, like in a plane kind of thing. So it's like, so we're here, and then at this exact moment, like 50 years ago, somebody's doing some other thing, and sometimes there's like those like tears in time where you're experiencing something that happened at this exact same spot, like years ago. If you adhere to like the theory of like energy, and things being energy, like residual energy, I mean, that's a big part of that too. If there's a really strong emotion attached to something, I mean, you just, what was that? I remember back in the day, say it was like a VHS replaying itself all over again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like it rewinds and plays again.
Yeah.
Rewinds, plays again. That's so true.
And then, but yeah, so going back to what you asked me, so we're going to pass by stage 19 right now. So stage 19 is one of those that people say is like, like haunted or whatever. And the story that's told here is that the little girl from Poltergeist, that they filmed Happy Days there, and supposedly the story goes that the little girl from Poltergeist, she worked here when she was on Happy Days, and they would let her, one of her favorite things to do was to run up in the catwalk and run around laughing. And the story that's told here is that she died here, and if you've like looked up the story, she didn't die here. She died very young, but she died in the hospital of like some like stomach ailment, some undiagnosed stomach.
Yeah, it was like
thing.
an obstruction.
Yes,
that was misdiagnosed. They thought it was one thing, and it turned out being completely something different.
So, but the story is that supposedly she haunts this place. Now, me trying to think critically, who lets a child run up in the catwalk, and that's like 20,
think
25, 27 or 30 feet up. So I don't know, I think it's one of those things where because she has like a little bit of connection to this stage, and because she was in a very scary movie, people like make that connection. I don't buy it, I don't really believe it, but there's people that say that they've had stuff like happen here. I've never had anything happen here. There's people that have, like that work here that will like try to like contact the spirit and do all that kind of stuff, and those people end up just scaring themselves, But I
heard something in the catwalk.
Yeah, one of my friends actually scared somebody because he came in to close up the stage, and the person was standing in the middle of the thing, and he walked up to him, and the guy didn't hear him walk up to him, and he put his hand on his shoulder to let him know, hey, you can't be in here, and the guy like jumped because he was so focused on what he was doing that he didn't hear him come in to tell him, hey man, I'm sorry, but you can't be in here, we gotta lock up. And he almost gave that guy a heart attack.
Because yes, Paramount was, what is it, the big was it the big three, the big five? I think they were considered an RKO. This was the RKO side.
RKO side, yeah. And Paramount's still like the only major studio still in Hollywood. Because like all the big ones, like Universal's over at Universal City,
of course.
Warner Brothers is up in Burbank. Although now the studios like Netflix, and Netflix is up the street now. So there's other studios around, but as far as like the big original studios, like Paramount is the last original.
Is it haunted? Is the Gower Theater haunted?
I'm sure there's people that tell stories about that. I haven't heard that one. Like, I'm going to tell you, like, the stories that I've heard and the stuff that I've had, but also, like, the things that were, like, debunked, that we debunked, sort of, like, when somebody said, hey, this is, whatever. But also, some of the interesting stuff here. Like, here's one of my favorite things here. One of the tour guides is pointing it out right now, but they filmed Cheers here, and the story goes that like right in that cement there, Woody Harrelson signed and put his handprints and the shoe prints, and supposedly, if I remember correctly, he had, I think it was him and Ted Danson, or I forget who else was on Cheers, they dared him to run around the lot naked, and he ran around the lot naked, and the afterwards he signed his name in the cement. So they're in the cement there that says it's Woody Harrelson, and it's got his his footprints and handprints, I think, in that little piece of cement.
This is the
Bungalow.
Lucy Bungalow. And tell us the stories of what's connected to these bungalows.
So the building that has the awning there, that's supposedly that was the entrance to Lucy's office. And Lucy and Desi had offices next to each other. And, there was a lot of stories of, like, womanizing and all that kind of stuff that would go on here. So there's, like, a lot of negative, like, energy, like, negative stuff that's associated with this building. Me, personally, whenever I would have to go to the second floor, I always felt like something didn't want me to be in there. I never had anything happen to me, but it was just that feeling of dread going in there. I had one friend who worked here who went up there, and he was walking down the hallway, and he says he felt footsteps coming towards him. And he kind of stopped suddenly, and then the footsteps started running towards him, and he says he felt like something went through him, and he ran out of that building. But with this building, it was hit or miss. Like, there was people that would say, I've never felt anything in here, and there's other people that are like, I hate going in that building.
Yeah.
So it was split down the middle. Some people were like, oh, you guys are crazy, I never felt anything in there. And there's other people that were like, nope.
Well, yeah.
I definitely feel like dread. I feel like something doesn't want me in there. I feel like I'm being watched. It's just, it was right down the middle with the people that you talk to. It's some people have stories about those kind of things, and other people are like, there's nothing there. So it's just one of those that, like, maybe some people are more sensitive to things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those that like I said, I never had any tangible, like, I saw something, I felt something, like, touch me or whatever, but I just had that overall, like, feeling of, like, dread being in there, like something just didn't want me to be inside that building. Yeah.
Now, is it true, this is a story that I've heard, that Lucille Ball's costume designer or costumer passed away either in this bungalow or the Desilu building over holiday? Is that true?
I've never heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never. The only thing I know about here is, you see this like yard here?
Yeah.
This is a replica of Lucille Ball's backyard.
Oh.
And so what they actually did was they did that so that whenever they, like, had, like, photo shoots and stuff, like her with her kids, they could be like, look, Lucy's home and she's running a studio, when in reality she was here running the studio, but they just made this look like her backyard.
Of course, it's Hollywood.
Exactly. And actually that you see where the little two lights are there?
Yeah.
That actually used to be bricked up. So supposedly the story was that was the entrance to Desi's office, and because Lucy knew what he was doing, she had that bricked up so that anybody that came to visit him had to go through her office in order to go see him. I don't know if that's true, but for
savage.
Sure,
Lucy, she's a savage.
For sure, that door was bricked up for years, and just recently they reopened it. So yeah, it was bricked up. So
that is savage. She's like, no, not on my watch. Yeah. So this is the building where people claim they hear typewriters, right?
Yeah.
Next to the bungalows.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the guards, somebody said, hey, I hear a typewriter going off in there. And they're like, oh, okay. So they went in there and checked, and they went in there, they heard the typewriter going off. And so they walked into the office, and it was one of those electric typewriters, and it was just stuck. So they just unstuck it, and that stopped. But somehow that became the story of, like, oh, like, there's, like, typewriters, like, there's a ghost that likes to typewrite or whatever.
And it makes sense because of the time period, typewriters,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the guards went up there and was like, nope, this thing's just jammed. It's not. It's just doing its own thing, But after he whatever moved the button, hit something, it stopped. So and it didn't hear it again. So it was one of those things where someone was, like, scared. They're like, I'm not going up there. You go up there.
Yeah, but it was just a machine,
it was just malfunctioning. Yeah.
Always a reason behind something. Many of the time. So stage 32 is where they filmed.
I think
Fox?
I think it was the Red Fox show. I believe.
Oh, okay.
Red Fox had a heart attack on stage, like, during when they were filming, and they say he died here. He didn't. They put him on the ambulance. He passed away outside of the studio lot. But
right.
Because of that story, there's people that say that they hear things here, that they feel things here. I never had anything happen here, but that's one of the often repeated stories here, is that that the ghost of Red Fox
roams stage
here.
32. But he shot his shows here, correct? Like,
I think I want to say it was the Red Fox show that was shot here. It wasn't Sanford and Son. It was like a later
show that he did before his passing. I mean, it could be a residual, could be something that was left behind, but who knows? And then now we're in New York. Look at me, I'm in New York. Yeah. Heard a story about like the New York lot. Apparently people have seen figures, lights, and apparitions, supposedly.
So the ones that are often repeated is people say they see a shrouded figure that walks through the wall into the cemetery, because the cemetery is literally just on the other side of this wall.
Yeah.
Here. Rudolph Valentino's buried over there. So one of the often repeated stories is it's the ghost of Rudolph Valentino that walks through New York Street and heads over there. I don't know about you, but if I'm dead, I don't want to go to work. So I don't know.
Yeah, why you?
But it might be a residual thing. It might be whatever. But here in one of these facades, the story goes that there was actually somebody that passed away in one of the facades here. That was a confirmed story of an employee that passed away here.
So someone did pass away.
Yeah, somebody. I can't remember if it was like I forget what department they were in, but like somebody. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say they passed away. They had like same like Red Fox. They had a heart attack, and they were taken to the hospital. So it's like something happened here like that traumatic, and people say that they felt that presence of somebody in this facade here.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had people say that they've heard somebody speaking or been touched or like cold spots, that kind of stuff. So that's the one story that I've heard about this corner here of this facade, is that there was somebody that I think it was either a heart attack or a stroke or something that happened in the facade, and then they were rushed to the hospital. They unfortunately passed away, and supposedly that's the story that person kind of still
lingers or
here.
Maybe it's just an energy form.
Yeah.
Like an egregore, like something that has just been placed here, probably from stories or probably from that pain or whatever they were going through. But that is, I mean, there's so many things that could be connected to that, but it's also the cemetery back there.
No, yeah. And then one of the first nights that I ever worked here.
Oh boy.
I had
as a security guard.
As a security guard, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I had an experience here that was one of the first ones that I. Again, like that's when I'm like, all right, yeah, I can't really explain that because it was, weird. So I was here working at night. There was a set here that I was, watching, and I was walking, making my rounds, and I passed right in front of this staircase here,
mm-hmm.
and I got to like right here, and I heard somebody run up the stairs behind me, and 2-3 in the morning, nobody else is here.
Oh boy.
Yeah, actually, there was guys working on the other side. They were setting up something for a shoot the next morning.
Yeah.
So I heard somebody run up the stairs here. So I stopped, went up the stairs, and I tried the door. The door was not on the hinge, so you couldn't move the door, open it.
Crap.
So I was like, okay, well, that was weird, because I thought somebody's playing a trick on me. They ran up there. They ran inside. But I went up, and the door was off the hinge, so it was, was just propped against it, so nobody could have just run in there. So I came down, I went inside, I went through here, went inside the facade, was looking for somebody, didn't see anybody, went outside to the other side, and the guys that were working on the other side were sitting down eating lunch. They were having like sandwiches, whatever, and I was like, hey, like, do you guys see anybody run through here? And they're like, you're the only person we've seen here, like,
Wow.
all night, man. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's cool. And, again, I didn't see anything, I didn't feel anything, but I clear as day heard, like the 4 or 5 steps taken right behind me, like stomping. I turned around, looked, there's nobody there. So, and again, I went to go kind of look. What was it? I don't know.
You don't know.
But I definitely heard something, and I wasn't half asleep. I was, wide awake because
you're alert because you, of course.
Much coffee. It was cold, so I was,
you have to. I mean, that's your job, and you have to be alert and be prepared to observe and see what's going on. I mean, I can imagine.
And then the other thing that happened to me over here, that's another one of those things where I can't explain. I was I was always trying to be very efficient when I did my rounds. So I didn't turn lights on, because if I turn the lights on, you turn the house lights on in the stages, it takes forever for them to warm up, and then usually you have to go back the way you came in. So I always try to like go in one door, make my rounds, and go out another door to, to be very efficient.
Right.
So I came in this building and I walked out this side, and there's usually lights that they have here that are on. They were doing a night shoot, so there was no lights on here, because once the production got done, there was no lights. So I walked out of the side of this door right here. And this building this was brand new. This wasn't here, so this was just kind of like empty here. And I walked out of this door right here, and I stepped here, and all of a sudden there was like a light, like something, like a light above me. I was, I was like on my phone, and I looked up, and I saw a orb, like about like this big.
Oh my god!
And it just kind of like dipped like 2 or 3 times and just went up and over the wall, and
into the cemetery. Oh my god!
And I like hopped on my bike, and I like rode to the other side to see if maybe I could see, like, whatever it was, like what was that thing?
Right.
And then I actually rode into the office to ask if they had footage of, because we have cameras everywhere. At this spot right here, there was no footage. Like, there's like the cameras, they had to point it in some other direction or whatever, but like there's like literally, you see me like just riding my bike, like going that way, but there's nothing of me coming out of here, kind of looking at it. You just see me riding my bike going that way, like fast, because I was trying to see if I could catch it on the other side, to see maybe like I was imagining something or whatever, but there was no.
Once again, something unexplainable. Yeah. That is insane.
But that was the one time I have ever seen something. And again, it's like one of those things where, like, what was it? Could it have been ball lightning? I don't know. That's super rare. I'd like ball.
How was the night? Was it still? Was it clear?
It was a clear night, because I remember looking up, and there was nothing. Like, there was no backdrop to it. It was like no clouds or nothing. It was just literally just this little like softball sized ball of light, just kind of like floating, kind of little, sort of just very slowly kind of bobbed up and down like twice, and then just went up and over the wall.
Like doop-a-doo.
Yeah.
What color was it?
It was just white. Like,
just a white ball of light.
Ball of light. Yeah.
I've seen and I've heard those types of anomalies. People describing anomalies that look like that. It wasn't just dust. I mean, dust doesn't look that large and that bright.
Right. No, and the thing is too, like, if it was like on camera, you could always be like, oh, that's probably like a dust or a bug. But like, no, I saw this thing. It was like a ball of light. It wasn't like a spherical circle. It was kind of like, like nebulous kind of,
Yeah.
Like, and it was just up and over, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, anybody else see that? No, just me. Oh, okay. But again, it's one of those things where, like, I want to believe. I want to find something, and I couldn't find any evidence. I couldn't find any video of the orb in any of our cameras. And then this is here is just for like the film history. This is where when Sunset Boulevard, when they're working like late at night writing scripts and stuff like that. This is where. This is the writers' building.
And this was featured in Sunset.
In Sunset Boulevard, yeah. This is where, I think his name's like William Holden.
William Holden was here.
Yeah, is here working like late at night. Yeah. So this is part of that small little self-contained city, right?
That's what it feels like. You guys have your own. I think you have your own fire department and police department and
security officers. Security department, our own fire department.
Have the medic right there.
Everyone's like, when I worked in security, everybody was like first aid trained, AED certified, AED trained. Some of us were like AED certified, first aid certified. And then, we have our own little hospital, like just like little medical offices. We have like our nurses here in case, anybody has an accident. Luckily, most of the time we're just getting flu shots or other things like that here.
Yeah, your COVID testing.
Hydration, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but the other cool part about that is that we also have a barbershop and a salon here. And this here is our barbershop here.
No way.
This is a newly named
right
Francis Ford Coppola. This is our Francis Ford Coppola Avenue. But the interesting story about the barbershop is that supposedly back in the day, some of the actors would go off lot when they were on lunch break and go have a couple margaritas across the street, and then they would come back and they were in no shape for working, and they'd always be like, "Oh, you can't go off lot." Like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get a haircut." So in order to stop that excuse, they put a barbershop here on the lot, so they couldn't use that as an excuse to get off the lot.
Oh, damn. Oh, no, we'll move the barber here.
Yeah, we'll move the barber here. So
they're like, great, can you move a bar here too? Next door. That is so cool.
Yeah. And then here is the Edith Head building. So this is where most of our costumers, they have the costumes for all the shows and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they come here.
And that's one place that's like supposed to be haunted as well.
I've heard stories, and no one can give me anything concrete. They were like, there's several like sections of the shop where people hate to stand.
Yes.
Apparently, there's a couple of apparitions, and
that's all that I've heard as well. That there's certain places that people don't like to
venture into. Yeah,
and I especially like when you're there late at night and it's just a bunch of like clothes hanging on a hanger, or like there's mannequins, or whatever, like that is your eyes play tricks on you. But I've heard people say that they've heard things there, they've felt being touched, you're just that feeling of like dread or being watched. I never experienced that in there. I can tell you that was it this one of these buildings here, somebody had a stand, a full-size Indiana Jones statue that would scare the crap out of me because they would move it. So I would go around the corner one day and there's a dude just with Indiana Jones with his whip back, and I'd just get scared. And then next time I'd go in there, I'm like, oh, remember that statue's right here. And then I turn, it wasn't there, and I make a right and it was over there. That's the only thing I have here is somebody was playing a joke on us because they kept moving that statue to keep us guessing where it was at,
right.
But yeah,
the Edith Head costume department, obviously has a lot of specters, supposedly. I can never, I've heard from people, like, I get it, they don't want to get in trouble, but they don't really go into the stories, but they're like, we just don't like being in certain areas of that shop.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I've always ever heard is people, I just don't like going in there. But never like a specific, like, this happened or that happened. It's just always like, it's just to get a creepy vibe, or I thought I heard somebody, or those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And then this is our little like they turned this into an alley, for filming. Like they always try to like maximize the amount of space that can be used for production.
I noticed that.
So they turned this into a little alley, and then if you noticed, all the buildings are painted the same color. White,
yeah.
And that's because it's very easy to paint that whatever color you want, to change it to whatever you want it
for
to
any
be.
scene that they need a shooter around here.
Exactly. Then we're gonna head over to the northeast corner of the lot, because that's the other spot where I had something happen to me.
Wow.
So I was that is the gate that's the closest to the cemetery. Hey, what's up, brother? How's it going, man? All good, man. Go home, man. You too. Again, we have our own gas station, so people can...
Tell me, what is going on with this building? What is this called again? The Hollywood Heaven building or something like that?
It's like the
Hollywood Heavens Apartments.
It's like the the Alexander, that's what it's called. The Alexander apartment building. And the owner of that building just is supposed to be like, or I don't know if it's still the same owner, but whoever started that apartment building was like a character. They love like really like
it's
loud,
very
very very like loud colors, and just it's always been painted some crazy like right now it's like a pinkish purplish hue, but it's always very very like highlighter colored. Like super decorative. I've never been in there, but it's supposed to be a fun place to live, and people like have stories about like partying there and that kind of stuff from like in the 70s or the 80s, I think. It
looks like that. So the building that we're talking about, I always pass by this building anytime I'm trying to get to Melrose, but it's like this eccentric Greco-Roman styled like building, and I think at one point it was hot pink, and I think it's like there's a sign that says Hollywood Heavens Apartments or the Alexandria Apartments, and it's just very eccentric, and it's its own character on the street, in my opinion.
No, definitely, it's you notice it. So we'll squeeze in over here. See if I can squeeze down here.
I get so amazed how...
No, me neither. You're fine. I might actually just pull this way and just park and walk that way. Thank you.
How, like, these carts go through tight.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So one day I was over here working we call it the morning watch, which is like the you work overnight, the third shift. Mm-hmm. And I was at the gate, and as we're gonna pass by, you're gonna see there's really isn't a way for anybody to sneak up on you. It's very hard to have somebody sneak up on you without you being able to see them coming. So I was sitting there and I had my back to the wall, and I heard somebody go, "Hey," right in my ear, and I felt the breath of the person.
No.
And I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Good night.
You can see, like, it's hard for how is
that possible? It is completely gated. The gates are like almost 8-9 feet tall. There's a security post right here.
And I was sitting inside that building. So where this door is, where that window, you see a little mirror, I was sitting right there with my back to that window. So there's no way for somebody to come up from behind me and whisper in my ear and say, "Hey, right here." There's no way. So I heard that, and I immediately got up. I looked out the window. I looked out the door because at night sound carries. So I was like, well, maybe somebody said "hey" down the street, and I just heard it. But I felt it in my left ear. I felt the breath in my left ear. There's no way that somebody snuck up on me here. And again, it wasn't like my first shift on that time period. We're used to being up at night. It was pretty early on. I think it was maybe around 11:30 or midnight, so it wasn't too far into my shift, so it wasn't like I was dozing off or that kind of thing. But I heard it clear as day, somebody say "hey," and I just turned around, looked, there's nobody there. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
So it's one of those I always tell people, I don't know what it was, but somebody said "hey." Same thing. New York City is the most active place that I've ever experienced anything.
So you could say that for the record, in your opinion, from your experiences, New York Street is the most active area in the Paramount studios.
That's definitely the place that I've had the most weird sort of I can't explain that experiences is definitely on the back lot.
Right.
One time I was there, I was working a set watch, and same thing, they had some props go missing. They didn't know if somebody had misplaced them or somebody was taking stuff. So could you just make sure you watch this particular facade, because we want to make sure that nothing's going on here. Right. So I was sitting in there. I had the lights were off. My flashlight was off. So I'm like, hey, I'm gonna just sit here, and in case somebody is kind of doing something, I'm gonna hide here and just see if I can catch them doing it.
Right.
And I was sitting there, my back to the wall. The door was on my left hand side, so I could see somebody come right in. And then I felt somebody put their hand on my right shoulder, and it was ice cold. And I felt the pressure of somebody's hand on my shoulder, and I immediately got up, and I turned my flashlight on, and I kind of looked around, and there was nothing there. I was I thought maybe something fell on me. I thought maybe something, I don't know. I was trying to see what could have possibly happened that explains feeling like something grabbed your shoulder.
Right.
And there was nothing there. There was no AC unit on where I could say, oh, it was a cold draft.
Now they touching you.
Whatever.
Now
yeah.
They're touching and whispering in your ear. It's take me out for a drink. Take me out for a haircut.
Exactly. So so that was one of those where I can't explain it. I know, clear as day, I felt like
what you felt. Yeah.
Somebody touched my shoulder, and I got up, I turned my flashlight on and wanted to see, hey, maybe something fell. Who knows? Maybe something,
hit my
came
shoulder.
off the wall. Nothing. I couldn't explain it.
But you couldn't explain it.
Nope.
When these phenomenons are happening to you, these occurrences, do you know, what time they happen? It's just mainly between, when you're here by yourself, late hours?
that particular one was pretty early on in the night. Like that one was like maybe like 8-9 o'clock at night, maybe.
Yeah.
All the other ones were like in like the after like 11, like between 11 and 3 was all the other ones that I've had where I've heard like the somebody whispering in my ear, or the ball of light, or the hearing people arguing, all that kind of stuff was like between 11 and 3.
Yeah.
But people say all that the stuff the stories that they tell happen at all kinds of weird hours of the day. But because I was working, mostly that graveyard shift, that's most of the time that I was here. And ever since I stopped working in security, haven't had any of that because I'm here, during the daytime.
Has anyone that you worked with in security, have they experienced things too, or seen or felt?
Just the ones that I said about, like the feeling dread, or in the Lucy Bungalow, or the in that facade in New York City where I tell you that they say that somebody had passed or had a heart attack or a stroke or something in that facade.
Yeah.
Those are the only two places where people have said that they've experienced something, that the people that I know, and then everything else is just the stories that are always kind of repeated of, stage 19 or stage 30 or those kind of things. But those are the only places where I've had somebody that I've worked with say, oh no, yeah, I felt that here, or I heard that here, is those two places. And of course the typewriter that was stuck in that other building.
Yeah. It was just a malfunction.
Yeah.
We hope it is.
I'm telling you, Javier is just a wealth of knowledge, and boy, did he have a bunch of stories. Now, he definitely saved the best for last, and that is the tour of the Paramount Archives. Now, if you ever do book a tour at Paramount, you are given the opportunity to take a tour within their archives building. And this is like the mecca of everything. It is one ginormous time capsule of everything and anything that was involved in a Paramount Pictures film. Everything from props to costumes that are literally all over, I think it's the second or third floor displays, to posters and even screen tests, you name it, they have it all saved here in this building. Now, talk about synchronicities of the universe. As I was walking into this building, I come across something very special and timeless. I'm just going to play it for you, but I just almost cried when I was able to witness this and was given the opportunity to view this very special screen test. So I'll just let you guys listen to everything.
Es el de Elvis Presley, que se usó en 1956.
Wait, what?
Elvis Presley, blue suede shoes.
Oh my gosh.
I can play the practice here if you want to see it.
Can I see it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is so cool.
He's so young. If you look at
Can I hold it?
Yeah, you can. I mean,
Oh, like can I hold the can? Like can I take a picture of it? Oh my god, this is so cool. Oh my god.
So yeah, I literally almost cried over Elvis's blue suede shoes, but I literally had the opportunity to sit down and watch 1956 screen tests of Elvis Presley's blue suede shoes. And he was so young and so handsome and definitely so talented. That is definitely a memory that I will forever keep in my head for as long as I live. Now, Javier takes me to the second and third levels, and he brings me to a couple of very interesting props that I'm just going to let him talk about.
So there's two versions of the Ten Commandments.
Yep.
There's the Charleston Heston.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a silent version of it.
Okay.
And so like CCB DeMille was very famous for his like huge sets that he would build. So they actually built a set out in Guadalupe, California.
Oh wow.
And when they finished the movie, he said bury it because he didn't want anybody else using his set. So they literally buried it under sand. And a few years ago, some archaeologists were like, "We want to kind of try to find this like." It was like I think it might have been like some like Hollywood history buffs and like some archaeologists. They went out there to try to find it, and they found. So this is a piece of the set that they found over there. That hieroglyph
From 1923.
From the Pharaoh's temple, yeah.
And what year did they find this?
It was fairly recently, maybe like 10 years ago, something like that.
Whoa.
But yeah, it was kind of cool because it had been buried in the sand, for so long, and then they were able to find this piece.
Wow.
And the other stuff that we have on here is just stuff that they, our archivists were able to like identify and say, yep, that was from that movie, and we have it on here. Because before they used to reuse a lot of props, so they used this ring in this movie, but they could have used it in 5 or 6 different other movies. You know?
That's true.
And so they were able to like confirm, saying, yep, I found this ring. Yep, I'm able to confirm that it was, used in the 10 Commandments. And so we have these little, pieces from the silent era that's kind of cool that I always like to like point out, because that's, being a history nerd and be like, hey, look, this is Hollywood history,
Wow.
And my favorite movie is Forrest Gump, so we got the hat.
Oh, you
and
got the
running
hat.
shoes.
Yeah, the running shoes. Look at that. I could go on with the rest of the audio, but it's just me gleeing and squealing over props and costumes of some of my favorite films that I'm literally just standing 6 inches away from. A huge thank you, many thank yous, actually, to a couple of folks. Definitely our friend Javier. Thank you so much for the invitation, for the tour, and taking the time and your wealth of knowledge, especially the ghost stories. A big thank you to Paramount Pictures and the folks over at Paramount Archives. Thank you for letting me almost cry over Elvis Presley's 1956 screen test of blue suede shoes. Guys, if you want to see any pictures and actual visuals, the videos that I have taken at the archives, and of course of Paramount Pictures and the lots, please head on over to our Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Hollyweird Paranormal. If you love California history, Los Angeles history at that, then we highly recommend that you follow our friend Javier on TikTok and Instagram under Californiography. That's Californiography, Californiography. And if you want to follow us or stalk us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hollyweird Paranormal, and Twitter at HWP Podcast. If you want to learn more about the podcast, right, you can head on over to our website. You can learn more about myself and Bryce by reading our bios, get caught up on our past episodes and seasons, browse around our delicious merch store, and also connect with our Patreon if you want to support the podcast. You can donate towards the podcast. Head on over to patreon.com/Hollyweird Paranormal, and as little as $1 or more per month for however many months you wish to help support the podcast, you can do so through this website. You'll be gifted in merch such as coasters, keychains, pins, and stickers, and magnets, of course, along with a thank you card, and of course, shout outs. You'll also be able to be inducted into our secret podcast society of Saturday Night Ghost Club, which is another little podcast that we have of ghost stories from our friends and neighbors and others who have had some pretty unusual experiences. And we definitely want to share those with you all if you can't get enough of Hollyweird Paranormal. Some thank yous are also at hand. We want to say a big thank you and give a big shout out to our new Patreon members, Liz, Selena, Veronica, who welcome all you Holly weirdos. We are so happy to have you on board. So guys, if you also have a couple of moments, we would really love for you to rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It helps us indie podcasters out a lot. It, pushes us more out there to the public. And if you have a ghost story of your own that you would love for us to share on one of our Listeners' Tales episodes, a story that could scare the hell out of Bryce, then please send it our way over to hollyweirdparanormal@gmail.com. All right, friends, till next time, our next episode, get this, we're going to talk about one of LA's most haunted shopping malls with our friend Tim Roddy. Oh yes. Does he have a heap of history and stories to share? Now, this is going to be a joint episode. Tim had given us
full permission to bring on his episode and do a merger with us. And it's just such a great episode that we just didn't want to touch it. We're going to, talk about it and just let him tell the story. It is so great. And the stories and accounts that he collected are just so scary, and we cannot wait for you guys to listen to it. So stay tuned for that. But till next time, friends, we hope that you had a wonderful Christmas, and we hope that you all have a wonderful 2023. Here's to wonderful abundance, positivity, wealth, health, you name it. We hope that you all are experiencing it. We hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves. You're taking care of each other, taking care of those ghosts. All right, friends, till next time, stay Holly Weird. Bye, friends.